Hey, I have a short video, but something I just want to stress for both Christians and skeptics. Please stop saying that the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are anonymous. I don't stress this because it's technically wrong, but rather I'm concerned about how misleading the idea can be. At the very least, if we care about accurate communication, we need to qualify what we mean by anonymous. Imagine I write down a recipe for a friend and hand it directly to him. He passes that along to some of his cousins. They're like, hey, where did this come from? And he says, oh, my friend Matthew wrote this. Is that note anonymous? Well, assuming that I never signed my name on that note, you could say that it is indeed anonymous in that the author never wrote their name on it. But it's an entirely different thing to suggest that we have no idea who wrote this recipe or that my friend invented my name as the author when he passed it on to his cousins. Similarly, most of the music you listen to probably doesn't have the name of the composer directly on the song, but the people who distributed the song know who wrote the song and they include that information on the download page or metadata or something like that. Today, people are saying that the Gospels are anonymous. But all of our evidence from the early church indicate that they were confident who wrote the four Gospels, and they were simply passing on what they believed to be true. You might suggest that the early church was wrong about the position on the authors, but that's quite different than inventing some narrative that the Gospels were mysterious writings that eventually had names slapped onto them. There are other writings of Jesus which have been called Gospels, like the Gospel of Peter or Judas or Mary. And in their particular case, it seems reasonable that these writings were forgeries or attempts to falsely attribute them to a famous person. The early church wrote against those kinds of things. They weren't gullible, but the four Gospels in the New Testament are positioned quite differently, historically speaking. I've said this before in a previous video, but I'd like to stress it once more. Our earliest manuscripts of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John have handwriting on the top that say the Gospel according to Matthew, according to Mark, or Luke, or John. You can see that for yourself if you visit the digital library of manuscripts at csntm.org. Scholars believe those labels are unlikely to have been original to the authors, but even if these names were added later, they were added because the early church knew who wrote them. At that time, there was practically unanimous agreement about the identity of the authors, with little evidence that there was ever any doubt. It really wasn't until centuries later that people started to challenge the authorship of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They make some fine points, but we are not being honest with our audience if we treat the matter like it's settled among scholarship. If you want to go deeper in the debate than these surface statements like it's all anonymous or I just believe it's true, well then you could check out one of my other videos where I press deeper on the relevant issues as a conservative thinker. I have one for the four New Testament Gospels, one on the Gospel of Thomas, and another for Ephesians. Links will be in the description. Anyway, I've noticed that people tend to like those videos I do reacting to non-Christian writings. So next week, we're heading out east and I will share with you my experience reading through the Bhagavad Gita. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.